My name is Jana, and today I have a special guest, Paul, from Wealth Management, and with whom we will be answering some questions about residency in Gibraltar. So, hi Paul.
Hello, Jana.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for doing this video with me, and could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what exactly do you do?
Absolutely. Thank you. Firstly, thank you for the invitation, Jana. It's a pleasure to share this platform with you. Fiduciary Wealth was established in 2007. We are dedicated to serving the expat community through tax-led wealth management advice. We offer tax planning, retirement planning, financial planning, and of course wealth management advice to the expat community in Gibraltar, Spain and Portugal. Naturally, we offer a wider range of services, and that of course includes residency and relocation advice to Gibraltar. Otherwise you wouldn't have asked us to join. We have very strong professional connections to a prestigious and well-regarded law firm in Gibraltar and a global accounting network. So we are closely associated with Gibraltar's longest standing Band 1 law firm, which was founded in 1892, so it's a long history. But equally, we're also a member of MGI Worldwide, which is a top 20 ranked global accounting network of independent audits, tax, accounting and consultancy firms, which has truly global reach. It's across 7 continents, more than 100 countries, 10,000 professionals, and it was founded in 1947.
Right.
So we're very proud of that.
All right, okay, thank you very much. We do have quite a bit of the questions, and I get also people asking a lot about the residency here in Gibraltar, and the first, we do have today mostly 2-3 questions to cover. Okay, and first we want to start with who can become resident here in Gibraltar. Is one of the most important questions. Is it like anyone can come and live here and reside here?
That's a very good
Any
question.
nationality?
That's a very good question, Jana. I believe that anyone can establish tax residency in Gibraltar subject to the individual's qualifications, eligibility criteria and their personal circumstances. And it's not just solely based on nationality and immigration policies, but clearly factors such as financial means of the applicant and the ability to contribute to the local economy will always be key considerations. No application is the same.
Right.
So you have to look at each application on its own merits. Immigration laws can change, and for non-EU and non-UK nationals, it's always advisable to consult with a specialist like our firm to ensure that there are no potential restrictions based on the nationality of the applicant.
Right.
So yes, best to consult with an expert to determine what is the best route to residency and secure a residency permit, because there are different routes to achieve the same result and the same outcome. And it all depends on the nationality of the individual and the financial means.
Right.
So in answer to your question, in theory, there's no restrictions,
Okay.
because it's not based just on immigration laws. It just depends on the applicant.
Okay.
And
So
then
pretty much
word.
anyone can. Just
In
depend.
theory.
But
I mean,
basically the rules are changing quite often. So it's very hard to find any information online, I know, because people are complaining.
You're right, and that's why I have to give a bit of a vague response.
Yeah.
For example, I think 2 years ago, we secured residency for a family from Hong Kong. So it's
Right.
possible.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. You can, it's not like so black and white, because it's not driven just by immigration. There's, financial considerations.
Okay.
But in theory, yes, we can do that.
Right. Well, so from this one, we're going to this main question: is
Okay.
how to get residency?
Yes.
What types of actually residency are available in Gibraltar for
Yes.
today? So one of the most important questions.
Exactly, it is a very important question.
Yes.
There's 3 routes to residency.
Right.
One of them is self-sufficiency. I'm sorry if I may say that there's very roots to residency, and it all depends whether you have earned income or passive income from your investments, retirement and savings, and it depends on the amount of income you generate. Right. That will determine which option we follow through. I think the first thing to properly say is that there's no tax to pay on many types of passive income in Gibraltar, aside from a transferring of a UK pension scheme into a Europe's, where you pay a flat rate of 2.5%, which is just a nominal rate to show some tax, but 2.5%, I mean, that's quite low, right?
Right.
You know, even 20% is low, but 2.5% is just a little amount of tax to pay on a UK pension transfer to a qualifying recognised overseas pension scheme or a qualifying non-UK pension scheme, also known as QNAP. That's very attractive for UK expat retirees who decide to move to Gibraltar on self-sufficiency grounds. Now, going back to your original question and talking about self-sufficiency, applications for Gibraltar residency on self-sufficiency are processed under Gibraltar's Immigration, Asylum and Refugee Act. And under that Act, UK citizens who have no material connection with Gibraltar are treated as EU nationals, because self-sufficiency was given birth when Gibraltar was part of the EU.
Yes.
And it required EU approval. So right. They haven't amended that Act to disentangle UK nationals from EU nationals. I know that the audience are not just British people wanting to move to Gibraltar, but it's important to highlight that, because there's a lot of Brits wanting to move to Gibraltar, and for the purposes of this Act, they're still considered EU nationals. They haven't amended the Immigration Act, Asylum and Refugee Act. Okay. So what does that mean in practice? It means basically that those wishing to take up residency on self-sufficiency grounds, so they've got passive income and they don't pay hardly any tax, can do so through two routes. The first one the first one is only available to UK nationals. Okay. And what it involves is if they are of retirement age, right, whether 66 or 67, and if they intend to make Gibraltar the permanent home, they can transfer essentially their UK medical rights from the UK to Gibraltar. And that Act would then allow them to register as self-sufficient here in Gibraltar. So only British nationals, and only if they are of retirement age and they decide to transfer their medical rights. Right. So they have contributed to their tax system and social welfare in the UK. They've reached retirement, and rather than keep it in the UK, they go, I'm transferring those rights over to Gibraltar. That Act will then open the doors for self-sufficiency for those individuals only. So it's very specific. The second way that any national can qualify for Gibraltar residency on self-sufficiency grounds is if they come to Gibraltar and work on an employed basis or on a self-employed basis. So I'll give you a practical example. Let's say that we have an individual who's entrepreneurial, who's got companies overseas, and he owns those companies, and he works for those companies. Potentially, he could then act on a contracted basis for the company as a consultant, provide services to the company, don't declare it in their home country, but declare it here as source of income. And that is a way, which means that they would pay tax on their earned income from the businesses they have overseas, subject to getting advice in the home country. But on the passive income, you know, other savings and investments and so on, they could potentially not pay any tax. So it's a good route to market. And if the individual doesn't want to, for whatever reason, declare that income in Gibraltar, they could always come here on a self-employed basis and establish a Gibraltar company, and and bill the company overseas, and that again would allow them to qualify on self-sufficiency grounds. So they're very specific situations.
It's the different rule is that, like before it was you could just come and just
and knock on the door and you're here.
Yes,
And
but now it's all changed.
But it's a very interesting thing that you should raise this, because the big problem that I think Gibraltar had was that it was attracting a lot of people who wanted to relocate to Gibraltar on self-sufficiency grounds. Essentially, if they had passive income, pay no tax, contribute nothing to the local economy by way of taxation, but yet take full advantage of the public services. So, I mean, that is not viable for a small economy that requires, individuals to contribute in some way. So what they've done effectively post-Brexit is to not change that act and tighten the rules and make sure that whoever comes here contributes by way of taxation. There's still ways to do it very tax efficiently, but the rules have become more strict, which in a way is understandable, because small countries cannot absorb a huge immigration, people coming in, not working, not paying tax, but yet taking full advantage of all the public services. Someone has to pay for those services, right? So it's only fair that the burden is shared among everyone in the community who's using those public services. Again, Jana, what I always say, I think it's essential that an individual who's looking to move to Gibraltar, they seek advice from a qualified Gibraltar relocation expert who's able to guide them through the different processes and routes, particularly if they want to pursue the self-sufficiency route, which, as I've just explained, has been tightened up and is more difficult to achieve. So, trying to come here and qualify in self-sufficiency is almost impossible. So you need, professional advice and guidance to ensure that you can navigate through this process and achieve the desired goal.
Thank you.
There's another route to residency, which I think is more well known, which is Category 2 status. And this route to residency is designed for high net worth individuals and the families who've got a lot of wealth and maybe on a cross-border basis, and they are prepared to pay a significant amount of tax but yet make a lot of tax savings compared to where they are currently tax resident. So if you have a Category 2 certificate, you're only taxed on the first £118,000 of assessable income, and the tax payable is capped at £44,470. It's a lifelong status, so long as you continue to meet the ongoing requirements, to include, of course, partner, spouse and children, then it can be renewed on a regular basis. This is a very appealing option for a high net worth expat moving to Gibraltar, and we see it, as I said, a significant amount of untaxed income from global business interests, and I want to minimize their liability as much as possible. And I think the good thing to say about, the good and the bad thing to say about the Category 2 status is that, if you look at the requirements, there's no legal requirement to spend a length of time in Gibraltar. 2 is appealing for high net worth individuals who are in receipt of significant amount of untaxed income from global business interests and want to minimize their tax liability as much as possible. The good thing about the Category 2 is that there's no minimum stay in any year. However, to be considered ordinary resident, you have to meet certain conditions. But, if you look at the qualifying conditions, they don't force you to stay more than a day or two or whatever it is. However, you know, if you're spending large amounts of time in third countries, there's every possibility that you will trigger residency there.
Right.
But as a status in Gibraltar, as a route, there's no legal requirement as such to spend more than a day or two.
Okay.
So it's not very onerous. That means that you could suit an expat who still plans to travel extensively and not spend the whole time in Gibraltar.
Right.
So if you decide to pursue Category 2 certificate, the requirements include, you know, evidence and proof of the following: net worth of £2 million, ownership or rental of appropriate accommodation that meets the needs not just of the individual but the immediate family, spouse and children, and that accommodation has to be approved by the Gibraltar Finance Centre Director, and you need private medical cover to cover the individual and the immediate family. In addition to that, Yana, you have to prove that you have not been resident in Gibraltar for the prior 5 years preceding the application.
Right.
Because remember, otherwise local tax residents would apply. Say, well, why am I paying so much tax when I just applied? So one of the rules is that you couldn't have been a tax resident for 5 prior years. You must also not engage in a trade, in a business or employment that competes with local Gibraltar businesses. So, yeah, Category 2 individuals pay the tax in advance, and the requirements are clearly more stringent than self-sufficiency, and it's unlikely to be a suitable route for everyone. But it's a possibility for if you're very wealthy and very rich. The other option is HEP status, High Executives Possessing Specialist Skills. It's a special employment status introduced as a cost-saving scheme for large corporates recruiting senior executives. And the idea is that you only pay tax on the first 160,000 of assessable income, and that means that highly paid executives can potentially be relocated to Gibraltar and enjoy the tax privileges subject to meeting some criteria. But the maximum tax payable is capped at just over 39,000, which is quite appealing. As you can imagine, if you are a senior executive earning 250,000 and you pay just under 40,000, then you will see that your tax rate is very, very low compared to what you would pay anywhere else. But this residency route is available to individuals who possess specialist skills that are not readily available in Gibraltar, and which, in the opinion of the local government, are necessary to promote and sustain economic activity in the territory. So it's not one which is very popular because it is very specific, but nonetheless it exists. And for large companies that maybe want to re-domicile to Gibraltar and bring senior executives across, because they're going to make savings in terms of the corporate tax that they pay. So you can imagine a company in the UK paying, I don't know, 25% corporate tax, and they think, we'll relocate to Gibraltar. Rather than 25, we'll pay 12.5. Big saving. And then we move our senior executives across, and they pay less tax. So they incentivize the same individuals who are running those companies to move and re-domicile their head office, for instance. So yeah, it is there. Those are the 3 routes. I'll repeat them: self-sufficiency, Category 2, and HEPS.
Alright, so those are 3 main.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and we will have more videos. We prepared more questions, so it's just we don't want to do it in one video because it will be too big. But so don't judge much, guys, on our first video, okay? Because for Paul it's pretty much like first time talking like this. So of course, if you have questions about residency or this video or any other questions, you can write the comments, and we will prepare like other videos based on this. And of course, if you need more information and help with residency, you can always contact Paul's company, and all the links in the description under this video you will find how to get to reach Paul. And for example, also with the UK citizens, we will have a different video also later sometime, how for the UK people, British people, what kind of rules, because as we now know, it's a little bit different.
Correct.
Okay, so yes, and I think that's pretty much it we covered today in our video about residency. And
I think
we can comment.
Yes, I think
it's the first video we've done pretty good.
Exactly. I think it gives people a bit of a flavour for the different routes to residency.
Yes. So,
and even though they might not understand the detail,
yes.
the important is to understand that there's routes to residency. They are different. They're all possible. Depends on the individual and their circumstances.
And the needs.
Yes,
what would you like to do here?
But the door is still open for business. So.
Right. Okay. So, which is wonderful. So, well, that's it for now, guys. Again, Paul, thank you very much for finding time and making this video together and answering the questions. Once again, which answers are very hard to find in the internet, and they're all like mixed everywhere. Some people say this, you can find something else, so it's just, but that's it. So, and we will see you next time. Okay? Thank you so much once again. See you. Bye, guys. Bye.